A loving husband. A devoted father. A man who spent years building the perfect life for his family. But in one horrifying moment, that life shattered, ending in blood, betrayal, and murder. What would push a man to kill the people he swore to protect? Was it rage? Heartbreak? Or was he just another pawn in a deadly game of deception and greed? This is the story of trust turned to treachery, of a con artist who wormed his way into a family, stole their fortune, and vanished without a trace. But the question remains, who's the real villain? Stay with us, because the truth is darker than you can imagine. And before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because you won't want to miss what we uncover next. It was a quiet evening in Atlanta, Georgia, March 15, 2020. The Johnson family lived in a peaceful, upper-middle-class neighborhood where kids played in well-kept yards, and neighbors waved at each other from driveways. It was the kind of place where trouble felt like a distant possibility. Michael Johnson was a 42-year-old businessman who built his reputation through hard work and determination. He owned a small construction company, and his employees described him as fair, disciplined, and dependable. To the outside world, he was the picture of success, a loving husband and father who took pride in providing for his family. His wife, Denise Johnson, 39, was a stay-at-home mom who devoted her time to raising their only son, Jordan. At 17 years old, Jordan was already a rising star on his high school basketball team. Teachers described him as charismatic and focused, a teenager with big dreams of earning a college scholarship and making it to the pros. But behind the perfectly staged family portraits and holiday cards, cracks had started to form, small at first but growing deeper with every passing day. It began with unexplained absences. Denise started spending more time away from home, offering vague explanations about errands and time with friends. Michael trusted her, at first. But then the late-night phone calls, sudden changes in behavior, and missing money set off alarms he couldn't ignore. And then came Eric Walker. Eric was charming, smooth-talking, and sharply dressed. He claimed to be a financial consultant with big ideas and bigger opportunities. But in reality, he was a seasoned con artist, a man with a long history of scams and broken promises. When Eric met Denise at a local gym in late 2019, he saw her as an opportunity. Over the next few months, he gained her trust, feeding her stories about wealth and success. What started as casual conversations quickly spiraled into something far more dangerous. Denise fell for Eric's lies. She began siphoning money from the family's savings under the guise of investing in a business opportunity. But there was no business, just a trail of empty accounts and broken trust. And as her relationship with Eric deepened, her connection to Michael unraveled. Michael didn't know the full extent of the betrayal, at least, not yet. But he knew something was wrong. He began tracking Denise's movements, checking her phone, and following her when she left the house. Friends said he was unraveling, becoming paranoid and angry. And Denise? She grew more secretive, more distant. By the time March 15 arrived, the tension in the Johnson household had reached a boiling point. That night, a storm rolled in over Atlanta. And as rain hammered against the windows of their home, the Johnson family's perfect image shattered forever. By early 2020, the Johnson household was a pressure cooker ready to explode. Friends and family began noticing troubling changes. Michael, once calm and measured, had grown tense, obsessed with finding answers. He started skipping work, tracking Denise's movements, and confronting her with questions she refused to answer. Denise, meanwhile, had become withdrawn and secretive. She avoided eye contact, guarded her phone, and spent more time away from home. To those closest to her, she seemed detached, like she was living a double life. And Eric? He wasn't hiding anymore. He became bolder, pushing Denise to siphon more money from the family's accounts and cut ties with her husband completely. Late-night messages and secret meetings fueled their affair, while Michael pieced together the betrayal one painful clue at a time. In early March, Michael made a chilling discovery: bank withdrawals totaling over $40,000 and messages between Denise and Eric discussing plans to leave town. The betrayal hit him like a freight train. Friends later said he became unrecognizable, haunted, distracted, and volatile. One coworker recalled him saying, "I feel like I'm losing everything, and no one cares." But no one realized how close Michael was to the edge. On the evening of March 15, 2020, the tension finally broke. The Johnsons' living room became the stage for a deadly confrontation that no one saw coming. Michael Johnson walked through the front door carrying a loaded weapon. Minutes later, the screams were silenced, and 2 lives were lost forever. "He shot them, oh my God!" He shot them. The dispatcher struggled to maintain control, urging the caller to stay calm. But it was clear the tragedy had already unfolded. When the police arrived at the Johnson home just after 10 p.m. on March 15, 2020, the scene was beyond horrific. Dennis and Jordan Johnson were found lifeless in the living room, blood staining the carpet where they had fallen. The unmistakable smell of gunpowder lingered in the air. Michael Johnson was still there, sitting motionless in a chair, the gun still clutched tightly in his hand. His face was expressionless, void of any emotion. It was as if he had completely shut down, unable or unwilling to process the devastation he had just caused. As the officers secured the scene, their minds raced: was this a crime of passion? Or was it something darker? The shock and horror of what had just happened rippled through the community, leaving neighbors and friends in disbelief. How could a man who had once seemed so level-headed and grounded become capable of such brutality? But as investigators combed through the evidence, something disturbing began to emerge. Emails, bank statements, and documents painted a clear picture, a web of lies that had been carefully spun around Michael for months. It wasn't just the missing money, it was the extent of the betrayal. Denise and Eric had planned to leave. They had been siphoning funds from Johnson's bank account and planned to vanish with the money. Love letters between the two reviewed their intent to run off together and start a new life, leaving Michael and Jordan behind. The financial documents were just as damning. Large sums of money have been transferred out of the family's savings account into mysterious accounts controlled by Eric, while Denise had authorized a series of high-interest loans in her name, each one draining the family's future. And then there was a final blow: the damning evidence that tied Michael's breakdown to Eric's manipulation. Texts between Denise and Eric, full of promises, secret meetings, and plans for a fresh start. Michael had uncovered their affair and their betrayer too late. He had been blind to the truth until it was too much to bear. And the most chilling part of all? Eric had known just how far to push Michael, how to manipulate him into the unthinkable. The true mastermind had vanished, and now, the search for him was on. Michael Johnson pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder, one for his wife, Denise, and one for his son, Jordan. The courtroom was filled with an eerie silence as he stood before the judge, his face pale and void of emotion. His defense cited a history of betrayal, financial ruin, and overwhelming emotional distress as the causes of his violent breakdown. Michael claimed that the weight of it all had shattered him, pushing him to the brink of insanity. But despite his plea for mercy, the jury showed none. The loss of 2 innocent lives, the brutal execution of a wife and a child, was too much for the court to forgive. After deliberations, Michael was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. His once promising future was replaced by the cold, unrelenting walls of a maximum security facility. No chance of redemption. No second chances. But the story didn't end there. While Michael's fate was sealed, another mystery lingered in the shadows: the whereabouts of Eric Walker. The man who had masterminded this entire scheme had vanished without a trace, just days after the murders. Eric had taken with him tens of thousands of dollars from the Johnson family's accounts. Money that was meant for Jordan's college tuition, Denise's dreams of a fresh start, and the future Michael had worked so hard to build. Eric's betrayal went beyond the affair; it was the financial destruction that had doomed the family. The police launched a nationwide manhunt for Eric Walker, but no lead surfaced. He had carefully erased his tracks, leaving nothing but a handful of fake identities and a long list of scams across several states. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Was Eric Walker the true mastermind behind this tragedy? Did he know exactly how to manipulate Denise into destroying her own family for the sake of his greed? Or was Michael simply a man unable to cope with the weight of betrayal, acting out of rage and jealousy, with Eric merely as a catalyst? One thing is certain, 3 lives were destroyed that night. Michael Johnson's life was lost to a prison sentence, Denise's life was ended by the man she trusted, and Jordan's life, full of potential, was cut tragically short. As for Eric Walker, the man who may have orchestrated it all, he is still out there, slipping through the cracks, leaving behind only a trail of devastation and unanswered questions. If you have any information about Eric Walker's whereabouts, or if you believe you might have seen him, please contact local authorities. The search continues. What do you think? Was this a crime driven by pure rage, or was it a carefully calculated plan set in motion by someone else? And what about Eric Walker? Did he orchestrate this entire tragedy, or was he just a catalyst for a man already on the edge? We want to hear your thoughts. Share your theories in the comments below. If you found this story as chilling as we did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. We've got more shocking true crime stories coming your way, and you won't want to miss them.